All right, to show for example, 1, see if you guys are paying attention now. So identify the population, indicate whether you would survey the population or a sample. The Royal Garden restaurant needs to know which main dish its customers favor. So what would be the population there? Hands up. Anyone but Layla want to answer? Okay, fine, Layla. All right, so yeah, the population in that case, if you couldn't hear her, would be their customers, right? The restaurant wants to know that which main dish its customers favor. So that would be the population. And would you survey the population or the sample? Iris maybe wants to help her out. Yeah, it could go either way actually in this one, because if it's a really big restaurant, a huge chain, then you're probably not going to survey everyone. So I would probably lend it to a sample in this case, but you could do a population if it was a really, really small restaurant. Okay, Stefan wants to find out if teachers in Canada prefer to wear glasses or contact lenses. Cameron, wake up. Yeah, talking to you. Okay, yeah, what's the population? Indeed, you're right. The population is all teachers in Canada. They want to know if teachers in Canada. So would you survey every single teacher in Canada, or would you just take a sample of that? Aaron, help out your buddy. Yeah, you're probably going to take a sample. You're not going to survey every single teacher in Canada. Okay, last one. Junior hockey team wants to find out why some people who bought season tickets last year are not buying them this year. Dana, what's the population there? Junior hockey team, season ticket holders. Yes, it's going to be anyone who bought season tickets last year. So the season ticket holders is your population. Would you survey the sample or the population? Could go either way. If it's lots of season ticket holders, you might say I just want a sample. Otherwise, you could say get everybody, because there probably isn't tons actually. There's probably a bunch. Okay, so it's either way. So again, kind of depends on how big you're looking at. Okay, example 2, identifying a sample. For each situation, describe how the sample could be selected, identify the type. So sometimes you can do one sample or another, but these some of them do lend themselves to a certain one. So teacher wishes to get feedback from 5 of her 30 students in the class. I don't see any reason to make this more difficult than it needs to. So I would just put 30 names in a hat, pick out 5, or just pick 5 randomly. So I would just say it's just a random sample. No need to make that more complicated than it needs to be. Okay, what about B? Telephone company wants to determine whether a fitness center would be well used by its 3,000 employees. The company plans to survey 300 of them. Okay, so in your book it says you could do a systematic sample. You could do a convenience or voluntary sample too, but systematically you could just go down the list, pick every 50th person or whatever, 10th person, however many you want to get in there, and then just, actually to get 300 you'd be doing every 10. So just go down the list. So take a list of all the employees and just contact them. Okay, that would be systematic, coming from a list. Okay, and C, a chain store is trying to decide whether to open a store in Camrose. They decide to survey people in Camrose and the 3 nearby towns. Well, because you're taking different groups of people, you're right, you wouldn't want to just talk to people in Camrose. You'd want to see if people from other places would go there too. Camrose is of course the biggest one, 16,000. So you could say, well, I'll just take 25% of each of these populations. So of course 25% is going to be a lot more in Camrose than it is on Bashaw. So, but that would be a stratified sample, right? If you're taking from each group, you want to get a certain input from each, do it that way. Okay, a marketing research company mails surveys to all the adult residents in a town. The survey asks about brands and consumer products. The residents are asked to mail their responses in a prepaid envelope. So this would be voluntary. You're sending it out, and you can respond if you feel like it. So voluntary response. Okay, the last one, a restaurant owner wants to know the favorite pizza of his customers. He wants to survey every customer who's in his restaurant. So this is pretty convenient. He's just asking people just in his restaurant. Okay. Same idea. For each scenario, what type of sample would you use? How would you select the sample? It's up to you, right? You can go through these situations what one would you want? If you wanted to do 800, city of 800,000 people, you might just ask for people to volunteer, or set up at a street corner. You could do it in a bunch of different ways. Student wants to know popular cell phones for grade 8s. Well, again, it depends. If it's in your class, you might just submit surveys. Otherwise, if you want to know in the whole province, it's going to be a little trickier. Maybe you'd email certain schools or whatever, but kind of totally depends. Okay, and B, in each case, identify the type of sample. Coach puts the names of all the basketball players into a hat and draws one name for a free basketball. It's just a random sample. There's nothing fancy about it. Okay, everyone has the same chance or likelihood of being picked. The second one, questionnaire is sent to every 9th person on a list, systematic. It's a systematic sample. Okay, picking them all equally likely, just picking from a list. Student council invites all students to provide ideas for activities. So this is a voluntary response. You don't have to respond, they're just sending it out to everyone. Everyone has the chance to give their input if they care, right? So page 427, you have a chance to practice some of these. Make sure you explain if there is some leeway for which survey to use or which sample to use. Explain why when you're asking some of these questions on the page and also in the worksheets.